got a 2004 Chevy Silverado with a 6.0 liter engine in it. The problem with the car is that it has an engine light on, and in our state we have got to resolve problems like that in order for the vehicle to pass an annual inspection. So we can't have those lights on. What we've determined, we've pulled the code, and what we've come up with is a P0322 code, and the way that translates is it's called knock sensor 2 circuit low input bank 2. So we've done some basic diagnostics to try and resolve the problem, and we really haven't gotten anywhere. The light keeps coming on almost immediately after the car is driven. So we've pulled off sort of the top beauty cover on the engine, and there's not really a whole lot of detail I can show here other than the fact that there is a lot of stuff that has to come off, or what appears to be a lot of things that need to come off. This isn't going to be all that easy because the truck is up kind of high and the engine is kind of in and kind of low. So we've got our work cut out for us today, and let's take a walk over to the shop bench and we'll take a look at the parts that we've purchased so far. So right now we've got about $150 into the project. This is the sensor. There's actually let me get a diagram, probably see a little bit better. So here's the engine block. Here's the intake that's sitting on top of it, and then these bits and pieces are all between the two major components. What we want to get to is we want to replace this sensor right here, and then there's one right here, and there's also this wiring harness. And we reckon if we have to take everything apart, we're going to go ahead and do the harness even though we don't know exactly what's causing the problem. It's probably a sensor, but it could be the wiring as well, so we're going to replace it all. So down on the bench, here's the actual sensor itself, and you can see it kind of resembles the actual technical drawing here. So two of those, okay, and we've got those laid out. Here's the wiring harness that's described in the drawing. Whoa, this thing almost rolled off the table here, and it says if you drop one of these in the manual, you have to replace it, so don't drop those. Here's the harness that's going to run up underneath the intake manifold, plugs and so forth, holding it all together. And then what really surprised me is that when we pull this apart, the intake takes new gaskets, and these things are, they're not the old floppy, style. They're more like they're almost like a Tupperware. I mean, these things are really thick and beefy, so we'll be looking forward to finding these things. And you can see they have these little catch clips on it, rather than trying to put some goop all over them and trying to get them to stick. So these actually clip on, and there's the the intake manifold gasket. So learning a few things here, and we've never done an intake on a truck like this. We were told by a guy who knows what he's doing. He says, well, it's kind of easy, right? Well, easy relative to what? We did a 98 Blazer, and that thing just killed us. I mean, that thing was really difficult to do. But the point is that we have to figure these problems out. It's necessary. We have to get this done. So it doesn't really matter about how long it takes. Just work the problems as you encounter them and get it done. The manifold off, we have to disconnect the fuel supply to the manifold and the fuel rail. That is a bit of a challenge. You actually need a special tool to do that. We actually made one, and I want to show you how we did that. The first thing we did was we relieved the pressure in the system. It will maintain that pressure throughout, so you don't want that gas spraying all over you. And what we did is that it has this tube that runs across the top here, and it comes over to this valve. And this valve just has a cap on it. It's exactly the same as a tire valve, right? So we laid some rags down in here, and we just took a screwdriver and gave the center core a little push, and of course gasoline came out of it, and that took care of the pressure problem. Now over on the side is where the other side is actually where the fuel line comes in. And you see here, if you look down inside of it, there are four, I guess, pieces of spring. They're like keepers, and they keep it onto this tab right here. And the problem is that they're way up inside there, and that's where you need the special tool, is to go over the top of the main tubing here, release all four of these at once so that the hose will actually come off. So was our solution to this, and we messed around with this for a little bit until we actually got something that actually worked. We found this pen inside the shop. The inside diameter of the tube is actually 3/8. It's perfect for the fuel supply. So I cut a section off of the pen right here, cut that section out of the pen, split it down its length, right, and then wrapped it around the tube like this. wrapped it around the tube like this, and then pushed it inside. And that caused all of the keepers to release at the same time, and then the tube came off. So one of the biggest problems that we've had with the job so far is 1,000 electrical connections. Every single one of these things is different. It's handled in a different way. On a whole bunch of them, there's actually a little, almost like a lock, and it separates from the connector itself. You have to get the lock off, then you can operate whatever squeeze or pinch or whatever's used as a keeper to keep the wire on. So we've gotten a whole bunch of these things off, and it's going okay. We just have to figure one out. What Evan and I do is, because this car's got some age on it, and even on a new car, right, is we just go really, really slow on this stuff. I mean, we screw up one of these connectors and we are hosed. So typically what we'll do is that I'll work on one for a while. If I can figure it out, great, we get it off. If I've worked on it for 5 minutes and I can't figure, we switch. And it just, having a different point of view on trying to get these things off seems to really help. We've done it dozens of times in that manner. The hardest wire that we have come in contact with yet is on the actual injector itself. And it's down here, and the way it works is that this sits on the injector like that, okay? And there are 8 of these, so you got to get all 8 of them off. This is the passenger side, and you can actually see the connection better in the passenger side. And what has to happen is this little tab right here pushes in. Well, because it's got some age on it, it doesn't want to release as well. So we had to reach up underneath the connector itself and pull it in this direction to get it to release. So now we've kind of figured out the trick on these, and now we've got 7 more to go, but we've been working on this one for forever, and especially because it's the injector, we're just not going to rush this. I mean, we have got to take our time. We don't force anything. We don't jab at it. We don't get pissed off and do things in this nature. It's a slow, pinkies up type of work, and we're not going to cause ourselves more problems. This has to be done in order to get this whole lump apparatus down here in the center of the engine. It all has to come off, and it's all connected with wires, so that's where we're at. Okay, we've gotten all the connectors off of the injectors. On the passenger side, it was a lot easier to do. I personally never successfully got one of those off of there. Evan did them all. He just figured how they were supposed to go. I tried to watch, it didn't work out for me. Hey, we go with what we've got here, right? Passenger side was easier because the connector is actually asymmetrical, and it works to your benefit on the passenger side. You can see it better. There's a little more room, not as much plumbing and wires and all this other stuff. So he zipped through those things in no time flat. Get over to the driver's side, it's a different story. It took him about 15-20 minutes to get them all off, and especially toward the back, they were just harder to do. So let's poke down here into the engine compartment. So this is the harness that was all strapped down here. We've taken and just tied it off here to get it out of our way. We believe that we've gone around it kind of clockwise and make sure that we've got everything disconnected. Now we have just a number of bolts that are just holding the intake onto the block itself. So we're anticipating that we'll remove these bolts, and then we're going to shake this thing loose and actually try and extract it from the top of the vehicle. So that being said, hopefully the next update we'll be looking at this thing. 5 bolts on each side of the intake, and we've taken it and given it a shake, and it's loose. So now it's really just a matter of extracting and unthreading it, and it's like trying to remove an octopus from an octopus here. So here we go, right?
Second, you got it?
Yeah.
This is caught here.
Okay.
Can you hold it while I...
Yeah, I got it. Toward you.
It's up there. Like this. I think this thing's so tight. We're gonna have to do something on that.
Okay.
Just.
It's really, really light. It's plastic. So, point the. Take a look what we got here. Yeah, so got gasoline coming out of it. off the fuel rail, because we left the fuel rails intact. Here it is. It says shared tube across the top, and then the rail here. These are the injectors. These are the ones that we had the problems getting those wires off. I mean, it was just unbelievable trying to get these. So now we're just now getting to the part that we actually want to get to. So here here it is. So let me get my cameraman maybe a stool or something, but this is what we're after right here. These are the knock sensors. Here's the wiring harness. There's the first one, the front one. There's the back one. Here's the harness that we bought from the dealership, and those are really the parts that need to be replaced. We'll clean all this up right while we're here before we go any further with the reassembly. So looks good. All right, so this is our first look at the knock sensors and pulling these rubber boots off. And you know, the engine's a little bit dirty, but we don't see really too much wet, wet stuff. Ooh, I see maybe a problem. There's and this wire back here, it almost looks like it might be broken right here.
There's also, it looks like some corrosion down in there.
Yeah, really.
Like it's got wet.
Yeah.
And that's one of the main reasons they say it gets wet and can fail.
Yeah, it does look wet. This one here is aluminum colored. This one back here is more of a sort of a wet, where it's dried. It's got wet and dried, and so forth. So that's probably the one that's been causing the problem here. So now we'll get this wiring harness off, and replace the sensors here, and we're going to look up the torque specs and everything to get it perfectly tight the way it's supposed to be, especially on any aluminum parts. Really want to be careful with not over tightening things. So that's going to be the next step. Okay, so this is the moment of truth. We put it all back together. If you'd like to find out a little bit more about how we removed the actual knock sensor that was the problem, it was completely seized in there, you can go ahead and come on over to the site and take a look at the project there, and we've got a tip about how we did that. Here goes. Light the candles. Feels weird?
No. Maybe it's just a reset on my oil gauge or whatever.
Yeah.
That's reading right around 40 now.
Okay, that's around where mine runs.
But the gauge was out. Remember, it was taken out.
Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's a bonus. We fixed the oil gauge at the same time.
That would be great. Right?
All right. So for the moment, do we have a happy truck owner?
Happy truck owner. Lights off. We'll. Do a little test run here in a second. We'll see if it'll stay on.
Button it up, right? Mm-hmm. Cool. Thanks for watching.